and we're here with Conor Ryan. Conor, what is up?
Evan, I'm doing well. How you doing?
Doing great. It is almost September. Can you believe it? September is the month that training camp starts.
Hockey's right around the corner. We're starting to get to the point now where you can, wear a sweatshirt with shorts. Feels like football's in the air. Training camp for hockey's in the air. We're getting there. Apple cider donuts.
Oh,
it's beautiful. It's a beautiful time, Evan. We're almost there.
It is a beautiful time. I think my favorite fall thing is Downey Ciders has a cider donut cider that I believe only comes out in the fall. And it is amazing. I'm a huge fan.
Impossible to find. Those things
very hard to
like
find.
Crazy. Meanwhile, you go to like any liquor store, they have like 85 boxes of Shipyard Pumpkinhead.
Yeah,
it's like, and I'm not to disparage Shipyard, but you have one I think in September, with the little like cinnamon sugar like rim, and then you have it and you're all set. You hit your quota. Like I could knock out multiple Downey cider donuts. You can never find them anywhere, but it's part of the game, right? Part of the experience.
Part of the excitement of getting them is it's like, you found buried treasure in a sense.
Exactly.
That's how it works. But you've been very busy. You and Greg Bedard teamed up to do a one-on-one with Bruce Cassidy out in Vegas, which came out of nowhere. Very exciting stuff. Hopefully people go read that, because again, we're not going to be like listing off all the quotes. We're just going back and forth on what Cassidy said, just like reading the quotes. We will not be doing that.
It's like an audiobook.
Yeah, it's an audiobook. We're just going to read the story to you. That'd actually be kind of nice. Imagine if people could listen to us read our articles to them. That would be so
nice. Little like we'd be like David Allen Boucher, Magic 106.7, just a little like jazz in the back as we just read off the transcript.
Nice way to fall asleep. One of my friends one time, she said to me, she goes, "Evan, I listen to Bruins Beat when I'm trying to fall asleep." And I said, I might never recover from that. So that's quite something. I hope other people are not listening to this to fall asleep. Hopefully not. But maybe they are. It's up to you. You do what you want with this. But anyways, you had the one-on-one with Bruce Cassidy. And there was a lot to take away from this. First order of business, it's hot out in Vegas. That's been a clear...
Could we clarify that from the start?
Yes, it's a clear, big change going from, summer here, which can be a little humid at times, to like the Mojave Desert, which is a little bit hotter.
It's not great, Evan. It is not fun being in Las Vegas in July, August. Really, most months of the year, it is quite oppressive. There's always people talk about, it's a dry heat. No,
it doesn't matter.
Screw you. Like it's not. It's still hot as hell out. Like if it's 110 degrees, I'm going to be cooking. I'm literally frying.
Yeah, one of my friends just did a cross-country road trip in an RV with his family, and they stopped in Oklahoma for a rodeo. It was 114 degrees, and people were like, "Oh, come on, it's a dry heat." And he's like,
"Is that Sooner, Evan?"
Sooner, go Sooners! Yeah, that's in Oklahoma. I guess it's my Oklahoma accent. But it's like 114 degrees, 114 degrees. But it is clear to me in reading your story and in reading the quotes, there's one theme that runs throughout. And again, this is me interpreting it. He's disappointed he got fired. And he misses Boston. I think it's clear. And I think he's still a little angry about it. And I think if you had to put, and obviously this won't happen in real life. This would be an unfair thing to do. But if you said, Bruce, you get to pick between Boston and Vegas, I think we know which one he's picking.
Yeah, I think it's rather clear, right? And I think it's one of those things where you have the immediate aftermath of getting fired, where I think a lot of us are trying to kind of pick up the pieces in terms of finding the correlation of what led to it. Then you have that kind of downtime in between him kind of giving his side of the story and in his first media availability with the Boston media after getting fired, where it seems like, was told to his status quo, then got let go, which was kind of surprising. You look at what the Bruins have said after they hired Jim Montgomery, and I think it all comes down to the fact that it's not like there was this overarching red flag or there was a mutiny in the room in terms of like, Bergeron or someone saying like, I'm not coming back if Bruce isn't back. And that's kind of what Cassidy mentioned in this thing. We talked about the fact that, you can draw kind of parallels between, all right, Bruce leaves and Bergeron comes back. Krejci comes back from the Czech Republic and Jake DeBrusk rescinds his trade request. Bruce more or less said that he doesn't think that his status had any impact on Bergeron or Krejci, because Krejci was upfront last year about the fact that he wanted to go away for a year, open the door to come back. seems like DeBrusque is a different story where it's, he kind of more or less deferred to, you can ask him that in terms of, his relationship between DeBrusque and Cassidy. But I think for Cassidy, though, it all comes down to the fact, if you look at what the overall correlation is from the Bruins perspective, it just seems like the messaging was getting stale, and you've got this set roster that you're trying to win now in and try to get one last, push with. I can see the argument that they have in terms of a new coach, a new system, trying to, squeeze more potential out of a group that you've already worked with for a long time. I could get the correlation or the reason behind that if you're the Bruins, even if that isn't like, if you look at, maybe a list of top 10 reasons why a coach is fired, usually like good team, just switching it up, that usually doesn't happen. You can almost kind of look at like the Celtics, right? With like Stevens, going from Stevens to Udoka, whereas like, this is a good group, a new voice, maybe can just get more out of it. It worked for them, but you don't.
How about Vegas going from Gallant to DeBoer?
Yeah, exactly. Ago. Yeah. So it's definitely usually not at the top of the list as to what leads to coaches getting fired. Usually it's teams sucking on missing the playoffs or massively underachieving. So for Cassidy, I could see why you look at kind of the track record he had and the rationale in terms of why he got let go. Makes sense why he's disappointed, right? There wasn't like there was this thing where obviously at the end of the year, people talked about Cassidy getting fired. I don't think anyone talked about that the first 2-3 days after the Bruins season ended. A lot of the criticisms focused on Cassidy. So if you're him, who has built quite a track record, yeah, I'm sure you're still pretty sour about the fact that you're now out in Vegas. Again, good team that should rebound this year. But if, you talk about Cassidy and he mentioned how long he's been in the New England area, grew up a Bruins fan, like, yeah, obviously I think it's pretty cut and dry that he'd rather still be here.
Yeah, and I think that's the tough part is normally when a coach gets let go unjustly, it's like, oh, whatever, it's unfortunate, but you move on. I think with Cassidy, it's different because he spent 14 years in the organization. He came up through the minors. He grew up a Bruins fan. I think it was different for him. And you see it in the article, how much that Game 7 loss in 2019 kind of impacted him and how it's kind of, still affected him in that sense. But an interesting quote came when he was asked about if he felt like he was a scapegoat from the Cam Neely and Don Sweeney perspective. And he said, well, I certainly wanted to come back and felt that I had deserved to come back. I thought I did my job. Nobody's happy when you don't win the cup. I'm not going to sit here and say the staff was infallible or anything like that. We needed to be better in the playoffs in certain years. At the same time, I thought we got a lot out of the players that were in front of us. It's tough to win. We were in the mix every year. We just couldn't quite get it done. So I don't know about sacrifice. I just felt that our staff did a really good job. I'd agree with him. He got the most out of the talent that was there, right? And we're going to get to this later when it comes to these prospect rankings, which we'll get to in a second from The Athletic, which is not the end all be all, by the way. But, they are pretty in tune at times with prospects around the league and they compare them. And that's sort of, we definitely see more of the Bruins prospects than we do, like, say, the Anaheim Ducks prospects. So it is good to have a national person kind of put it all together. But it's not like Cassidy was handed a lot. Especially when it came to the younger players. And he even mentioned, like, he kind of pushed back on the question of, one criticism was you weren't great with younger players. And he was like, well, we did develop McAvoy and Carlo and Grizzlich and Bjork and, Flip Donato and DeBrusque, like, and he even mentioned, getting Pasternak when he was still very young. So I think it kind of keeps going back to, and obviously Cassidy's not going to come out and just go, yeah, I felt like the scapegoat, because again, I don't think he wants to burn that bridge, but I do think there's a part of him that's like, hey, I felt like I was the guy thrown under the bus.
Yeah, I think if you had to sum up like the interview in just a few sentences, it's Cassidy's disappointed. He can see like what the narrative or the rationale the Bruins presented is. It's not this complete stretch in terms of just a good team wanting to switch things up. It's just unfortunate it kind of came at his at his situation in terms of he's the guy who's the odd man out there. But in terms of the fact that, this wasn't just, I think, all falls on him, which I don't think he kind of acknowledged that as even being a real narrative. Because I think if you ask more Bruins fans, it seems like a lot more of the criticism, even I think people who are receptive to Jim Montgomery can see that, maybe a new coach coming in here can get more out of this established group, which I think something that now looking back on it, I could totally see, Montgomery and his systems getting more out of an established group. I don't think that's any stretch of the imagination to say that can't happen. Like, I do think I think that could benefit this group. It's just, I think when you look at who ultimately pays the price for the years of coming up just short, years in which some, familiar flaws with the roster end up dooming them in critical times in the postseason. It's just unfortunate that it falls kind of on just one guy in Cassidy, who I think if you look at his overall track record, shouldn't usually be kind of the sacrificial lamb, I guess, in terms of what has led to a lot of these really promising seasons coming up short. But as is usually the case, it's usually the coach that takes the brunt of the criticism first before it kind of falls on other people in the organization.
Yeah, and again, I think if they continue to underachieve, it will continue to go up. I don't think it's going to be like they're not going to let Jim Montgomery go, unless things went like really bad. But again, I don't think that is going to be the case at all. But it seems like Bruce is still having a good time out in Vegas, feeling good. But if Cassidy really wanted to feel good, like really good out in Vegas, he would choose our next partner, which is Athletic Greens. They have a product I use literally every day. I started taking AG1 because I wanted better gut health and more energy. I don't drink coffee or use caffeine because I wanted healthier, natural energy, and AG1 has been providing. Oh, I can't be pulling that out of the iced coffee. Sorry. No, AG, Athletic Greens is the only thing. It doesn't taste like it's super healthy or anything either. It has a mild tropical taste that I actually look forward to each morning. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced ingredients, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. Special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All the things.
Holy crap.
Whoa. It's lifestyle friendly. Whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, it contains less than a gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, while still tasting really good. This all supports better sleep quality and mental clarity. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. Number one. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. 5. One scoop, 5. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/Bruins. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/Bruins. Take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. I actually moved in with a bunch of my friends, and I had my Athletic Greens, and one of them, who's very into being healthy and everything, tried it, takes it every day as well now. So he's loving it. So again, make sure athleticgreens.com/Bruins. So you have this Bruce Cassidy interview, which comes at the perfect time as the Athletic, Corey Pronman over at the Athletic, does his prospect rankings. Now, he had ranked the Bruins as the 32nd system last week. Again, that's 32 out of 32 teams. So not the greatest. Again, it's not the end all be all. It's an opinion. But again, credit where credit's due. The Athletic does keep up with prospects from all around the league. They do. So this is not like, I can't speak on where guys have been ranked in the past on these lists. I know someone, I cannot confirm this. And maybe you can help me out with this, but someone replied to my tweet and said that at one point they had McAvoy as like in the hundreds for prospects, which I find hard to believe, but
I do know, I think, was it even like a year ago, I think Swayman was like rated as like their 4th best prospect. Like, I don't think he was even I don't know if they did like the top players under 23 last year, but I do know like when they did like a review of like the Bruins prospect pipeline, I want to say he was like 4th or 5th on the team. And this was after, again, a small sample size, but that stretch there in the 2020-21 season where he was the best young goalie probably in the league. Again, who knows how that kind of trends is over a course of a year, but you look at that sample size, probably be like, all right, this guy, at least we know he can play in the NHL. So again, that's not to say that you should discredit everything that is, posted from other people like this. You look at guys like Corey and Scott over the Athletic, they've got a very tough job keeping tabs on hundreds of prospects across the league. So, it's definitely a tough job they have, but it definitely isn't the end all be all too, in terms of charting the ability or the ceiling of some players, because a lot can change once the puck is dropped in a season and guys kind of go through their own respective development timelines.
Yes. And again, it's tough to chart prospects. That's the other tough thing. Is there's guys who come out of nowhere. There's guys at the time. I mean, remember like how people are so hyped up on Alexis Lafreniere and Capo Caco, and they still could be very good players for the Rangers. But I remember when they were both getting drafted and coming up, it was, they were the next big goals, things. And Nail Yakupov type stuff. And it happens. Like, that's how kids work, man. But so they released their top prospects under the age of 23, and they ranked 170 of them. And I know it was 170 because I'm scrolling through the article and I'm like, where is Fabian Lysell?
Boston. Do the search key BOS.
None. I'm looking for Mason Lohrei. Mason Lohrei was not in there, which I found interesting. Unless I missed him, but I don't think I missed him. I do not believe he was in there. Fabian Lysell was number 170. So Fabian Lysell was the last person ranked. And I was surprised by that. And maybe it's because we focus on the Boston prospects more than the others than around the league. And they're kind of contextualizing every prospect amongst others, whereas we kind of will look at Fabian Lysell scoring a really cool goal or look at his own performance. Oh, that's terrific. But, we're not charting, the other guys as well. But I do find it kind of weird that he wasn't ranked a little higher. Still, though, I still think their prospect pipeline is getting better, but it's still not terrific, especially down the middle.
Yeah, I think it's just you have to take a pragmatic look. I think if you want to have a critical view of the Bruins prospect pipeline, like for me, I wouldn't probably say they're 32nd, but I still think they're 25 to 27, maybe. I think like you, I agree that I think it's getting better. I think you look at guys like Lysell, Lohrei, who I think has a very, very high ceiling. I think even if he maybe doesn't hit his potential, I think he's a guy that could be your sheltered third pairing power play guy. Like, and there's value to that, but he could be, I think, what do we say when we kind of charted out for these guys, that he could be like a John Carlson if all works out well. That's not to say that's going to happen, but like he has.
Conor Ryan says Mason Lohrei is the next John Carlson.
In terms of like what his potential is, skill set, size, all those things, it could happen. But then even guys like Jelvik, look at Riley Duran and his stock kind of rising. Merkulov, again, these aren't guys that are surefire, going to be top 6 guys, or even a guy like Duran, maybe his ceiling isn't top 6, but I think you're at least seeing more guys added to this this pipeline that with adequate reps, with the way that they're developing, could at the very least be everyday NHLers, even if that's further down the lineup. Again, you're still missing that high-end skill. You're missing that surefire, top 30 prospect that you can chart and be like, all right, this guy looks like a top 6 center or anything like that. You're still missing that maybe, but they're still adding more pieces to the mix that are giving you a higher ceiling, or at least look more appealing than maybe what you've had in years past, where it was, all right, we hope that Axel Anderson, pans out, or we're looking at like Studnicka and, is he really a top 6 guy, which doesn't seem to be the case. So I think they are on the up and up, but still you're definitely not in the same tier as you said, guys like Anaheim or LA or Carolina or anything like that. Detroit, yeah.
That's big ones. I still look at someone like Lysell, and I see a lot of potential there. I mean, the fact that we're sitting here discussing, hey, can Fabian Lysell step in on the top line and be a top 6 right winger at the age of 19? The fact that we're even discussing that on a team, by the way, that has a really good top 6. It's not like the Bruins are the Red Wings or the Montreal Canadiens. Like, this is like, I know there are lots of holes with this Bruins team and there are lots of question marks, but the reality is that top 6 is actually good and when fully healthy. And the fact that we're even discussing if Fabian Lysell can slot up in there, the fact that there's even a chance, and there's going to be so many times in training camp where he's going to make a really good play, whether it be in a preseason game, a rookie game. Can you hear that going over me right now? A helicopter? You can't? Nope. Oh, well, it was screaming over me.
The hot take machine. No.
Hot take machine. They're dropping athletic greens in the backyard. That's what they're doing.
Respect.
And you have to respect that. But so I still look at the fact that we're discussing Lysell like this, and I don't understand how he ranks that low. And again, I know that it's a national perspective. It's not the end all be all, but I do think that Fabian Lysell does not get enough love, in a sense, from the national media. And again, as I said, not everything, just kind of surprising that he doesn't get as much kind of clout with everyone, considering also he had an amazing WHL playoffs last year as well.
Yeah, I think when it comes to something as divisive, I think as prospects and their ceiling and what you expect of them, I think it's usually the best thing to do is kind of find some agreement in the middle, where it's, I don't think if you're a Bruins fan, you should operate with the assumption that Lysell is a top 20 prospect and he's going to make the top 6, like right out of camp or anything like that. But also, I don't think he's a guy that should necessarily be that low. When you look at, what he did in the with Vancouver last year, he had a pretty strong World Junior. But I also think you watch him in World Junior, you could see why this is a guy that what I think is going to end up happening is he goes to Providence and learns the ropes there in terms of just his overall game, right? Because still a guy that has that high-end skill, but you go from players your own age to bigger bodies in the NHL or even the AHL, where I think there's going to be some adjustment for him. That speed can only go so far when you've got guys that can stand you up at the blue line or knock you around or keep you to the outside. So he could very well be a guy that would surprise him if he's playing NHL games by the end of the year. No, not at all. Is he a guy that could, be almost a point per game guy in Providence for what should be a pretty good Providence team? Absolutely. And who knows? He goes down there and he doesn't miss a beat, and he kind of rises his stock. And I think that's just how you have to approach any prospect, especially someone like Lysell, is just go in with the expectation that I think he's still your top prospect. He should get meaningful reps down in Providence. And if he pops and, accelerates his timeline, great, you'll take it. It's almost like Pastrnak, right? Where he was drafted, 25th, had a lot of high-end skill. You're very intrigued by it, but it's one thing to see him do it like overseas or where have you, and another thing to do it in Providence. Goes down there and was it like 18 points in his first 22 games, something like that. All right, then you can change those adjustments. I think for any prospect, it's all about, setting realistic expectations. And if they exceed it, it's a pleasant surprise for everyone. Like, look at Lohrei. Lohrei was a guy that was overaged in the USHL. A guy that when you look at fleet-footed, bigger defensemen, you're like, all right, usually there's a little bit of a learning curve going to college. Didn't really look out of place at all with Ohio State. So what do? You can readjust your expectations then. I think that's the best way, I think, for anyone, especially Bruins fans, just to view any of their prospects, keep a reasonable floor. And if they break through it, then that passes just another hurdle or another test for these guys as they eventually get to where they want to be at the NHL level.
I know there are going to be a lot of fans that want Lysell in the lineup for opening night. I get it. He's fun and exciting and all those things. But I think the only thing that should kind of cause a red flag or disappointment for people is if Lysell goes into Providence and doesn't produce, right? Yeah. Then it's like, okay, there's something here. You got to think about that. Maybe he needs another year here. Maybe it's difficult development. But again, he's shown no signs that going to the next level has been an issue. So, but again, that's the only situation where I will raise a red flag and be like, okay, we got to rethink some things here with him potentially. And by the way, he's only 19. Yes. So a lot can change as a 19-year-old. But I think it's the only situation where I think Bruins fans should kind of go, I don't think if he, again, probably not going to make the team, probably going to start the year in Providence, probably going to play most of his games this year in Providence. That's okay. That's very much okay. You want that, especially because you don't really need him at the NHL level just yet. It's you're not dying for that. Up at the NHL, we'll see again in the preseason what he looks like in games. Hopefully he doesn't have a Jack Studnicka moment where he, puck goes in off his teeth and into the net. Hopefully that doesn't happen to him. That'd be an unfortunate kind of way to kick things off. He played in the preseason last year though, didn't he?
He did. Yep.
Yeah. So this is, potentially a year he could make the team, or Providence at least. So we will see. Conor, though, what can the people look from you over at BSJ?
Yeah, as we get closer to the start of training camp, we'll continue to kind of look through a few of the other pressing questions regarding the Bruins in this roster, look at upcoming training camp battles that will be probably dominating the headlines throughout the first few weeks of September. So all that stuff will be over at BSJ. So please subscribe at BostonSportsJournal.com. Want to follow me on Twitter? You can do that at ConorRyan_93.
Go do all that. For CLNS Media, I'm Evan Marinofsky. Bruins Beat listeners, have a great rest of your week.